We're good. We're on YouTube.
All right. Cool.
Okay. So they were talking about whether or not, because Mike Greenberg from Get Up or whatever said that UConn could beat an NBA team. But so they were talking, what would the point spread be? And they asked, I guess, their sponsors, DraftKings, whatever, right? So DraftKings puts out a number, UConn versus the Pistons. What do you think that they set that number at? Or what would you set that number?
Pistons minus 27.
Okay. DraftKings said 45.
Okay.
And I said, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, I'm not saying that they're going to compete, beat the Pistons, but you give me 45 in UConn against that Detroit Pistons team? I don't know. I've watched that Pistons team. I know that, college players, there's 12 pros on the Pistons, and maybe UConn has 2 or 3 guys. I don't give a shit. Give me the 45 and whatever, right? I mean, 27 makes more sense to where you're at, but 45 just seemed a little wild.
Yeah, and I think it would all be whether the Pistons were actually motivated.
Right, there is that.
Like
who's going to play?
Like if you get a Pistons end of season, if you told the Pistons you're playing a college team, like you show up or you're going to be embarrassed, I think they'd win by a lot.
Yeah.
But it's look, the college basketball level is not that high. It's good basketball. I enjoy it, but I was watching a few minutes of the Maine Red Claws versus the Delaware Blue somethings.
Oh wow!
And the G League playoffs. Those teams would dominate in college. The best, after the Pistons, the best 2 teams in Michigan are the Motor City Cruise and the Grand Rapids Drive, and it's not close. This is the thing I think college basketball and college athletes need to realize. Their value is their alma mater. It is their ties to their alma mater. It is not the level of play. They are in most states, the 4th and 5th or 6th or whatever best teams in the state. It is not. So I mean,
why would Caitlin Clark leave then? Because I would stay right in Iowa if I were her. That's where you're going to get all the money from.
No.
WNBA's not going to compete.
No, but her money's not coming from Iowa. Her money's already coming from endorsements. She's
does that carry over from?
Yes.
college?
She's got real NIL, not STTP as I called it or whatever it is, not the bullshit collective stuff. She's got real NIL. Her stuff is. I don't even think she's taking any of Iowa's collective. I don't know what Iowa's collective situation is. It doesn't even pay Caitlin Clark or offensive players in football. So they need to work on that. I just thought it was interesting. I just heard the number 45. Yeah.
Pistons minus 45. It's wild.
So yeah, no, I can't. I would pay to watch it, but
That's true though. The Pistons would have to have some sort of motivation, right? Because if you just get them lackadaisical off a back-to-back road game, road swing or something.
Let me ask you something just to bring our listeners inside baseball.
Yes.
How bad was I stammering at the beginning of this show?
You could definitely tell that you were distracted.
Flustered.
You were flustered,
yeah.
And you're not listening to what I'm saying. So it's better for the show if we just honestly take a commercial break, if we want to go that inside baseball. Because Alex was coming in to figure out what I fucked up, apparently. So
yeah.
But it's no biggie. But it does. You can tell when you're doing your read-throughs or you're listening, or if I'm saying something, you're distracted.
I can't do it if the technical
it's
aspect
really
isn't.
tough.
Yeah,
I get it, but that's why I think that next time either we play Hoff.
I think we just start over.
Break.
I think we just start over and delete the pod. If YouTube isn't working, that's like that. I mean, I know it's a small portion of our audience, but I still think we just delete and start over.
Well, post show we can talk about.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Maybe. Yeah, we'll figure that out. All right, let's. Are you ready to dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions? All right.
Yeah. Eric Schultz up first. Mark Montgomery leaving is an unexpected opportunity for progress. Will Tom utilize it by hiring someone who can help where he's not as strong? Or are they going to introduce Tum Tum? It's okay we lost to Syracuse because at least we don't have Cancer Nairn next week.
No, I mean, I don't know what he'll do for that 4th position. I mean, they're going to hire in-house almost for sure.
Awesome.
Well, they got a 4th. They have a 4th coach, right? I mean, so that's not even – it's not like it would be weird, I think, for Izzo if he didn't bring on John Borovich, who's the director of recruiting operations, who was a full-time assistant at Northwestern before he hired him. And maybe he'll stay in that role, but I would guess he would be promoted into the assistant coaching role, and they'll hire somebody else in that 4th coaching role. Now, that doesn't mean that can't be a really valuable person and somebody who's good at working with big men or whatever. It could be a really valuable person, but I would suspect that Borovich will wind up in that role that Montgomery was previously in terms of just staff position. So for all the talk about like bringing in an outsider, they sort of had 4 assistants. Now they have 3, and they'll bring in somebody to fill the 4th. But it's not going to be a direct 1-for-1 over Mark Montgomery, I would not think.
Dominic next. Tom said he regretted not using a timeout against Middle Tennessee State, but he still hoards his timeouts for the Hogard heave play before half. Says he's going to play guys, then he doesn't play them. Claimed he didn't hate the portal and then avoided it. Why should I believe he'll use it?
You don't have. I mean, there's no question there have been some times that he should have used a timeout. I think they're far and few between than you probably realize, but they do stand out. So I'm not here to defend Izzo. I mean, if there are definitely times in that North Carolina game, there's at least one point when I went back through it that he probably should have used a timeout. There was a media timeout in there. It wasn't quite as bad a stretch as I first thought. But the Middle Tennessee State is the best example of definitely should have used a timeout, and he said it. I mean, 15-2 or whatever. Yeah.
Next one from Dominic. Couch has a crush on Garrick Normand already, huh? A lights-out white shooter? Shocking. How long until Graham is calling the fans fucknuts and Ebling pivots off declaring him the next Pistol Pete and instead refers to his foot affliction as New Gehrig's disease?
Look,
that's in the Couch in the Roof Twitter Hall of Fame. That's awesome. New Gehrig's. I could see Ebling doing that too.
Yeah, I do. I do like the. I mean, I haven't seen much of Garrick Normand other than practice. I haven't seen him in a game situation. I like shooters. I like people can put it in the hole.
You like white guys?
You know, I'm actually anti-white guy generally, but you know, in this case, I like Garrick. So I am curious to see what he looks like.
I'm anti-white guy. Oh, that's great. Dominic Graham, do you realize having Rick Carter on when Jason isn't there to call you out about the Izzo wall is like the equivalent of you eating 17 groovy donuts when Elizabeth is away on business?
I mean, I did it on purpose. I knew you weren't here, so I was like, "This is the time."
Rick Carter. I don't mind Rick Carter.
Yeah, but you're here. You are here to check me when I have Rick Carter a little bit.
Well, you guys 69, but you 69 everybody that comes on as a guest. That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the best part.
And Rick was really good. We got a lot of compliments on that interview. And people were not happy that he suggested that he would have A.J. Hogard come back for another year.
Oh, well, never mind. Forget everything I just said about Rick Carter. I take it back. What the fuck? He said that?
He did. Thanks for listening.
Oh, man, yeah. Dominic, you know what my dream is, Jason? Purdue winning the Natty. Graham goes to Big Ten Media Day next year and extends a hand to congratulate him, and Painter laughs out loud to his buddies and says, "Who is this chotch? How about you fetch me a Frappuccino, bub?" If God is real, that would happen if Purdue wins the championship.
Yeah.
Just Painter looking right through you. A pissed-off Graham Couch.
That would change everything. Oh, my God. That would change everything. That would change. I would be so anti-Matt Painter.
That would be the most electric Couch in the Room podcast.
Oh, that would be it. I'd be out. I'd be all out on Matt Painter. Take the banners down.
SMU Spartan next. Any chance MSU goes for Trey Townsend and then a big sharp-shooting wing in the portal?
Well, the Townsend stuff, I mean, I don't know what – I know Oakland would like to keep Townsend. Obviously, if there's a connection there, he's a Michigan kid, went to Oxford High School. I don't know that he's the perfect fit for what they're really looking for, but he's a really good player, and so you can't have enough of them. If you're going to start Xavier Booker at the 4, I'm not sure. Like, Trey Townsend to me is a really good 4, and that's why he's a mid-major, a really good mid-major kid. He's a little undersized in that sense. He could play at the Big Ten level. He'd be a good player, but I don't know if he fits.
SMU Spartan. Hasn't MSU lost guys inconveniently to the portal in Pierre Brooks, who'd be a nice scoring wing to have now, and Julius Marble? I feel those have been transfer portal losses already.
Yeah, you know, the Marble one is, when I talk about inconvenient, yeah, Marble was inconvenient, and even though I don't know if he was really a starting big in certain ways in the Big Ten, it was certainly inconvenient to lose him.
And he went home, right?
Yeah, he went home. Now, with Pierre Brooks, even though he's had a really good year, he needed a fresh start. And sometimes that's just what needs to happen. And so I don't think that was inconvenient. They worked on that together. They sort of, he was, I don't even think, fully invited back at that point. they knew he could go somewhere and be good. They recruited him because he's a good shooter and a good player, and I'm glad it's worked out for him at Butler. And I thought early this year when they didn't have enough shooting, he would have really helped, but defensively is a real weakness for Pierre Brooks, and I think that needs to be an identity for an Izzo team. It was never going to be for him when he's on the floor.
Jay Riemenschneider, next. What is a Walmart Wolverine? Is it a fan that didn't go to the school? Pretty sure most fans didn't go to the school they root for.
So, yes, it is in one sense. Now, it picks up steam. Like, when I was growing up, I was technically like a Sam's Club Spartan, I guess, or whatever you call it, right? So I was...
Is that the equivalent to Walmart?
I don't know. I mean, I grew up in the town. I was a local, I was,
Sam's Club Spartan.
Yeah, so anyway, I was a local, but there are lots of reasons to root for a team. With Michigan, it's more pronounced because there is naturally a smugness about that fan base, and to some extent, that school. It's an attitude that I think.
And white trash people shop at Walmart, and white trash people like Michigan and Walmart.
So you put together, right, this sort of smug, hoity-toity, reputational fan base with a lot of people like Michigan who don't fit that, and that's where that comes from. So it's exacerbated by the dynamics of Michigan. But yeah, there are a lot. You shouldn't have to. First of all, most of Premier League soccer teams, the Americans who root for them don't even know where the fucking town is.
But they shop at Walmart.
What I mean is, in pro sports, we don't go to the school. It shouldn't matter whether you go to a school. Now, you can argue that if you didn't go to a school, whether you really talk shit about somebody is a fair argument. But even then,
there's too many rules.
Yeah, even then, even if you went
I'm dumb, you're dumb. Let's have fun.
Even if you went to the school, what does that have to do with how well somebody plays basketball or football just because you got into a university?
Next one from Jay. When is Mr. He Got It going to turn the reins over to Dalton Shelter for MSU basketball play-by-play?
I think Will Tieman's got kids in college, so my guess is he's going to work for a few more years.
He does?
Yeah.
He's got kids in 20-year-old kids?
Yeah. No, he's an older dad.
Awesome.
Yeah. I like how you changed your tone. You were worried about saying something.
I was hoping you didn't catch that. Jeff Peterson. Next, please rank in order from least to most likely to occur before the season. Izzo brings in an assistant without previous MSU ties. Well, that's last. Jaden Akins either enters the portal or NBA draft, or MSU signs 2 high-profile players from the portal in the next 2 weeks.
I'll surprise you here on what's last. I think Jaden Akins enters the portal or NBA draft is last. And I only say this because
you're giving us a glimmer of hope that Izzo would bring in a non-MSU.
Well, I just think
assistant.
I just think they're all in on making Akins the sort of the featured 2 guard, and Akins wants that role. Right. And for him, why would you transfer now? You've sort of put up with being the third wheel a little bit in the backcourt. Now it's your time. You're going into your senior year. You know who your coaches are. You know the situation. You know the environment. Going somewhere else in college basketball makes 0 sense for him. And then if you kind of went through the NBA process last year, you didn't have a year that was markedly better. So why would you think to go? I would be very surprised if Akins tests the waters or transfers. That would be the least likely. So I'll put number 2 least likely. It would be Izzo brings in an assistant without previous MSU ties. You never know. You never know who you
just told us there's no possibility of it because they're just scooting a guy.
Well, no, but there's that 4th spot. That's technically an assistant. I mean, if that job, it could happen. And so most likely is MSU signs 2 high-profile players in the portal in the next 2 weeks. People should feel good about that.
All right, T-Bone's dad next to on next year's MSU squad can just go get us a bucket, a la Tyson or Malik Hall, with the shot clock running down. Is this person currently on the roster?
Well, this is an important question, right? Because you got to have people who can create shots for themselves and others, and I think we're going to find out a lot about Jaden Akins, whether he is this guy when he's in a different role. We saw it in occasional spurts where he would create for himself, would get to the bucket. He's going to have to do a lot more of that. And then, if you're a 6'11" guy named Xavier Booker, I think you're going to be a guy who can get a shot when you want to get a shot. And so I would be surprised if he's not that guy to an extent. Jeremy Fears, as long as he's as explosive as he was before, will be a guy who can get to the bucket. We've seen parts of it with Trey Holloman, but Tyson Walker was elite at it, and much more so than Malik Hall. And so that it's going to be different. I don't know that you have that sort of shot creator on next year's roster, but there have been a lot of really good Michigan State teams that didn't quite have that guy in terms of getting your own bucket.
T-Bone's dad next. Some dude named Malachi Flynn dropped a 50 spot for the Pistons. What the fuck is this all about, guys? Also, they, of course, still lost. Hey, he did that off the bench.
Yeah.
Nobody's playing D.
Yeah, that's part you get late in the year. And
late in the year.
Most of these guys in the G League could drop 50 if you get the right setting around them. I mean, it is just the way it is. But, yeah, it is weird that he's the guy that drops 50.
How many points would Malachi Flynn have if he played against UConn by himself?
230.
All right. I believe it.
Yeah.
All right. MZA, what kind of offensive output will Akins need to have next year to consider the season a success?
For him or the team? I mean, for him, he need to be a frontline scorer. I mean, minimum 14 a game to be a headline scorer. You look at some of they've had years where that's sort of the leading scorer and they've been good. But that for him, I even think the same. Like he's got to be that kind of guy that, because if you're scoring 14 a game, you're creating for some of your own shots. There's a level of play you've reached of consistency, and so that's sort of probably the minimum for him.
MZA, in a recent interview, Izzo mentioned that their main goal in the portal will be getting a wing, and he didn't concretely mention getting a center. How does this now change with the news that Mahdi is leaving? And from Dave Lakin, I'm getting tired of seeing reports of college players considering MSU in the transfer portal who aren't over 6'11". Are you hearing anything about true big men who MSU is going after in the portal?
I have not yet, and I'll be honest a little bit. I've avoided Izzo this week. I'm on vacation next week, not from the show. We're doing a show, but from the LSJ, and I don't want to add work to my plate. So I don't need an extra. I don't need to sit down with Izzo next week. I don't need something to pop up like that. So, but just from people I've talked to originally, my initial inclination was they were definitely going to go after a big. I hear a little less of that now, and so I don't know what's going to happen. Now, Mady Sissoko, leaving, what that does, it doesn't change the need or the situation to me all that much, but it does unclog things a little. So if you're talking to the current big guys on your team and you're like, we need to bring in sort of a rugged rebounder, it doesn't feel like you're replacing guys as much because there's one less guy who's gone anyway, and I think that may be of help. So, but I have not heard anything. I know there's some guys who put them on their list and are planning to come in who are wings. I think that is their top priority. But I still would be surprised if they don't add a big man. I mean, we'll see, because it would be an interesting conversation if they don't. How Izzo sort of justifies that and the fan base response. I still would be surprised if they don't.
Coming up on a 4-hour couch in the Rube. MZA, what are the floor and ceiling in terms of a record for the MSU football team this year?
Floor? I mean, we just don't know much about this team. So 4 wins, ceiling 8. I don't know, in that range. It's that kind of year.
I'd say 5, as the bottom, maybe.
Yeah, there's some. It's hard to see them winning more than 8 games. I mean, you can have one of those years where
but they have a quarterback
that helps.
Yeah.
And he might, yeah. See, that's
if he was coming in with just a random ass quarterback, I would think you're right on the 4. But
he's, what we don't know about him is he's still going to be a first year starter. So how good is he going to be in year 1 as a true sophomore? He's going to have some growing pains probably, but maybe he's way ahead. So much will depend on that, and then I actually think there's some things on defense that are pretty promising in terms of who they got back and other things that they might be okay. So yeah, it's really hard to tell.
Dat Dude up next. Which sport is more affected by the West Coast teams entering the Big Ten? Football or men's basketball?
What do you think it is?
I think it's football.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the high-end play, too. And if you're just talking about in terms of travel, there's more of it for the basketball teams because you're playing more games and you're out. But
some of the West Coast football is kind of different than the Big Ten.
And USC, traditionally, great program. Oregon, been great for a long time. Washington's been great recently. And so there's just, I mean, you're not adding a lot of Purdue, you know? It's sort of like you're adding, it changes the dynamic of who they are, and the brands over there are pretty big. So I think it's a bigger change in football.
Aaron Voss next. So far, what is the biggest difference you see between the way Smith is running the football program and the way Tucker was?
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
I don't know. I just haven't seen enough of Smith. I've barely had a conversation with the man at this point. I mean, I've been a part of like a group presser situations, but I do think there are some promising signs in terms of how they've interacted with the returning players and tried to gain their trust. And I wrote a column on that this week because I do think that's important. Like, if you're going to have success, one of D'Antonio's real keys early on was how many guys stayed. Transfer portal was different back then, and how much they got out of those guys. And so I think, getting a lot out of guys who once were supposed to be the core of the rebuild under Mel Tucker is really important.
Wesley Collins next. Did Izzo miscalculate his roster, or did he just miscalculate the likelihood that injuries would be a factor? Doesn't that need to be a greater part of the calculus when considering portal options? You can't think the roster you have in August is what you will play with in December.
Yeah, I mean, injuries are tough because if you don't have injuries, then you just got too many dudes and you got a problem and you've got a roster you haven't managed sometimes. Now, that doesn't mean he shouldn't have added somebody last year. So it's hard to plan for injuries, but it does seem like every year they got at least one, right? Almost every year it feels like there's one person who misses 2 months of the season. But the problem is you don't know who that guy's going to be. How do you build a roster out of, could be a guard, could be a big man, could be a forward, it's just so I think he miscalculated on his roster. I think even healthy. Now, there are some things that I think would have been interesting to see with Jackson Kohler, but I also think based on everything we saw with the rest of the Big Ten and where they were at the 5 spot, they should have brought somebody in and just their rebounding throughout the season. They didn't become a good rebounding team till very late in the year, and they did. To their credit, they improved significantly at the end, but that took way too long.
G.E. Miller next. With Mady Sissoko leaving, will this offseason be a failure if Izzo doesn't land a solid scoring wing and a two-way big?
Off-seasons are determined by how the season goes. So,
is that how it happens?
Well, yeah. I mean, like last offseason was a failure because they didn't get the parts, whereas if this year they'd been good enough, then last offseason's not a failure, right? So if Carson Cooper last year had emerged into this guy who was like this real presence inside, and it turned out they didn't need a 5. They had the guy right there, and they were really good at the 5 spot. Then last offseason was calculated correctly. It wasn't a failure. So I don't think anything's a failure till you see it play out. But just based on the number of names who are bringing up Michigan State and they are associated with at the wing spot, if they don't land one when they're clearly trying, that would be a failure. And I think that is the spot. Like, they at least have centers. They may not be good enough to be consistent upper-tier Big Ten guys, but they don't have any size on the wing at all. Like, they really do need that sort of 6'7" length guy who can play either forward position. They need that kind of guy.
G.E. Miller, what are the % chances each of the following guys will return next year if we add a big, as we should? Kohler, Carr, or Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything about Carr wanting to go anywhere. Certainly, he's the guy when you add a wing, it's sort of like, wait a sec, are you replacing my future? What year is that guy? And Carr's not a guy who's like from Michigan or anything. I have not heard any reason to think he's not coming back. And if you're Cohen Carr, with all of your, they're not going to bring somebody in who's more athletic above the rim than Cohen Carr because there just aren't many of them. So if you're Cohen Carr, what you have to know is if I get my skill to where it needs to be as a shooter, as somebody who can handle the ball and get to the rim, then I'm fine. They can bring in, freaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm going to start over him. That's actually not true. But you know what I mean. With Kohler, if they brought in a big, I would be a little curious. I think Kohler wants to stay. but I think he needs to see that there's a path, and so that would be real interesting. Cooper, I mean, I can't imagine Cooper leaves.
All right, last one from G.E. Miller. If Izzo really wants a second title, we have the roster pieces, we've got the NIL resources. Why not go out and make a can't-refuse offers to the best small forward and center in the portal? And why not Omarui and Storr, is that right? And Storr are the guys of their caliber. Why should MSU take a back seat to any other program?
You come in with $1 million, a box of Groovy Donuts. You say to AJ Storr, what else could you possibly want? And by the way, you don't need $1 million, but to get a box of Groovy Donuts and make and entice the I don't know where I was going to go with that, but it was a nice attempt at a really good live read. Point is, Groovy Donuts has amazing donuts, right? They do have amazing donuts, including custom-made donuts. We're seeing on their Twitter feed, we see Tigers donuts, baseballs, little English D's, really cool stuff that Andrew and Monica do at Groovy Donuts. They also have Donuts of the Week every week. This week, they're featuring the Samoa Toasted Coconut Caramel Chocolate Donut. It looks incredible. I'm definitely going to be there this weekend. You can order that at groovydonuts.com. Swing by either location. They're open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. That's on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamson. This Samoa donut is the real.
Oh my God, it looks so delicious.
The real deal. Yeah, for sure. To the answer to the question, short of Groovy Donuts, you still have to manage your roster to a certain degree. If you start throwing around $1 million, and they don't just have unlimited money. They don't. They have significant NIL, but it's not like it's just unlimited. You also have to manage that. Like the other guys on the team aren't making $1 million. So how does that work in your locker room? Is that guy your best player? Automatically? Is that there's still a and is that really what? It's not as simple as it sounds. I don't think. I mean, even Kansas scoffed at Storr wanting $1 million. Right? That's the report, and offered him $750,000. That's still a lot. Yeah. And those are places where the gray hairs are willing to, there's zero return on your investment. That's the other thing. How much money are you willing to put into it? What percentage of your income, G.E. Miller or fans or whoever, are you willing to put toward AJ Storr? Because even these really rich guys don't want to just throw money away, and they want return on things. And AJ Storr was on a roster at Wisconsin that won shit this past year. Looked really good for a while. I loved the makeup of that roster. He shot them out of some games. He was great against MSU. It's not as, it's just not quite as easy as it seems.
Professor, next. What if Jeremy Fears is not ready to go next season? MSU with no point guard?
Well, if they thought, I don't think they think that. I think they think Fears would be fine physically. I also think if there was another month to the basketball season, we would have seen Jeremy Fears on the court. I just, time wasn't in his favor there, and they were being smart about it. But I think they think he'll be able to have a pretty normal summer getting ready for the season.
Fart Soup next. Will the current state of the NCAA have ripple-up effects and begin impacting the quality of the NBA? Valeni Enrico mentioned that on this upcoming NBA draft is one of the worst ever. I have to think the lack of player development at the college level has a major impact.
Well, if Valeni Enrico said it, then no.
I mean, the Valeni podcast is one of the top-notch podcasts.
I'm kidding. It is supposed to be historically bad, though we hear that before.
Fantastic. I'm glad the Pistons won 8 games.
Yeah, no, it's not,
awesome.
Great. Yeah, no, last year they had the worst record, and they didn't get Wemby, who looks now like a generational talent. I mean, it's total bullshit.
And with Monty Williams and the contract and ownership, it just seems like, all right, so we'll check back in what, a decade?
Well, no, they still have 4 pieces. They're still in a better shape than 15 other NBA teams because they have 4 pieces to – they're closer to a title than 15 NBA teams because they have 4 intriguing pieces, and a lot of teams are trapped in the middle or aren't going to get
not
there.
with that owner.
No way. That's a good argument. But the like next year, I think 2025 is supposed to be a really good draft. There could be ripple effects, but most of the guys staying in college basketball and getting NIL are really good players, but they're not top-notch NBA guys. That the top NBA guys are still going to go 1 and done, 2 and done. I don't think that's going to be a huge effect on the NBA, but that would be how the NBA got invested in college basketball. If they saw their talent pool start to change, they would be interested.
Usually sad Spartan next. Question on basketball recruiting. Seems like MSU always used to have at least a few in-state kids on the team, but not just the past few years. Has Izzo abandoned that for some reason, or is the talent just not there anymore? I'm counting just 2 kids out of the last 5 recruiting classes.
A lot of this has to do with what's in state. It has to do with kids leaving for prep schools out of state, and so are those still in-state kids, even if they've been from out of state somewhere else? Most recently, it has to do with, the MHSA, I do think is not quite kept up with allowing kids and teams when they have really great players to travel and play elite competition, and which would help maintain kids. But so that's, it's mostly he wants to recruit in state. He wants to recruit in the 4-hour radius around East Lansing. He thinks that's helpful for retaining kids because families are a part of it, and it's always been his philosophy. But Michigan, in their worst years, it wasn't because Izzo stopped recruiting. It's because Michigan dried up. It's just not the state it once was. It came back a little bit. It seems to have dried up a little bit again.
Ken Chu and some dude with the same question. How the fuck was Cone Carr not in the college slam dunk contest?
This is
last night, right?
A fair question. Yeah, I don't know if they have freshmen in it. It's usually seniors. I don't know if it's ever
really
guys who are not done.
I watched it last night. It was pretty. They had it at Grand Canyon University, which their last NCAA tournament game was pretty wild. And then they have the Drew. What was his name? Bryce Drew, the coach, who basically his team gave up on in the second half and just started running their own fucking plays. And then here's Bryce Drew, like, hey, he's waving. Like, don't the players hate you? But it was actually the dunk contest wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I remember Doug Anderson being in it, the great Doug Anderson from Detroit, who we've talked about.
Legend.
But I think that was after his final game in Detroit. I'm not sure if it's something underclassmen do. Why wouldn't you let
freshmen? Who gives a shit?
I don't know. I don't know the actual rule there.
All right. Some dude. Kim Mulkey wants to kick Graham's ass. Who does he choose to fight on his behalf? Chad Latz, Johnny Spirit, Solari, or Tom Izzo?
Oh, Solari without question. Because
I don't know. Latz has nothing else to lose.
Yeah,
and Mulkey.
But Solari, he used to cover women's basketball, so he would speak Kim's language. He knows Kent Babb well personally, who wrote the article on her.
So is he planning this? I mean, it sounds like you know something.
No, but Andy's a feisty fuck. So like that I mean, Solari would be my go-to if I needed somebody to help me fight Kim Mulkey, without question.
Wow. Some dude, Graham, how miserable are you transitioning to covering football in April? Will you do any sweet gymnastics analysis?
Yeah, I definitely, and I'm going to get into this on Monday with our hot takes. I don't have to do a lot of football in April because you know what? You don't care that much, and I love that. And I'm not saying you don't care about MSU football, but it's just not where your head is. You do. I'm gonna do a column on the spring game. I did a column this week, and that's probably it. Other people write because first of all, if you're a columnist, you're supposed to have opinions on things, and there's not a lot happening with football. It's just practices. Like it's not like, and we don't see them, so there's not a whole lot to do. It is my least favorite thing though, because, and it's not really football's fault. It's more that you have this crescendo. Like the basketball is intense, important, and fun, March Madness, and then you transition from that to a month of practices followed by a scrimmage. Like it's just, it wouldn't matter what sport it was, it's going to feel less fun.
And coaches don't want any like news breaking out of anything, so you can't really talk about it, right? I mean,
yeah, you don't.
If you don't have any knowledge, you can't make an opinion.
Correct. And MSU gymnastics, they are in fact competing right now this weekend down in Florida in Gainesville at the regional. I don't think I'll have anything beyond this. As soon as this week's over, I'm off next week from the LSJ. We'll have updates on them, but it won't be from me at least until if they get to the nationals, and I'll certainly be back then. I might do something then.
David Cox next. How can you possibly root for Perdon't when the officiating is so blatantly one-sided? Look at all the stats for fouls in all games and compare them to Perdon't. So happy this is ending. It sounds like agony, David.
Yeah, I like Purdue. I don't hate Purdue. I find it hard to hate Purdue.
Zach Edey.
I like Purdue. I like Zach Edey.
He's 7'5". He gets to do whatever he wants, and then he dunks and gets fouled. He's like shrugging off whatever. I'm sure Edey's a nice kid, but it's just I hate Purdue. JD.
You're not alone.
Right. Apparently. JD, why are MSU fans concerned about the UWM lawsuit? I must have missed where the U.S. suddenly became a country that actually holds its billionaires accountable for their actions.
Yeah, it's the United Wholesale Mortgage lawsuit, and there is some talk that like this could really mess up things for Ishbia. I guess the concern is it's with Ishbia. It's with to what degree it affects NIL and funding. That's all it is. It really nobody cares about Matt Ishbia. I mean, not one fan gives two fucks about Matt Ishbia, but what they care about is Matt Ishbia's money and how it infiltrates.
So they care
and
about
helps.
Matt Ishbia.
So then they care about Matt Ishbia.
Oh,
Right.
By the way, I watched a video podcast with Pablo Torre on the subject of UWM and Ishbia. It's very, very interesting. But I just don't think that anything's going to happen to him. But David Jackson next. I see portal talk of guards, wings, and bigs. Just how guys does
how many? Sorry.
How many guys does? Okay, we missed one word. Yeah. Just how many guys does MSU hope to bring on anyway?
I don't know if that's David's fault or mine, but the editing was poor on my part, so I'll take responsibility. I would say no more than 2. I do not think Izzo plans. I no more than 2. I mean, certainly just in terms of roster space, there isn't much more than that. But I would very much doubt it's more than 2 unless there was some sort of exodus with a couple of guys leaving that they didn't expect.
David Jackson is next year's second-team quarterback, currently on campus.
Yeah, it's the transfer from what's his nuts? Hold on, give me some off.
Come on.
I am the passenger,
Cockburn.
and I ride. I ride through the city's backside. He got it! Stars come out of the sky. Yeah, the bright in the hollow sky.
All right, this is loading at the pace of nothing here. I don't know what's going on, but the
are you on your AOL account?
Yeah, I just dialed up or something. It's it's not actually loading up. But the it's the kid who transferred from North Dakota, or wherever that.
Carson Wentz.
One of the Dakotas. Nope, not going to even try a name. It was a 4-year starter there. I think he was a real good fit. He did some, it's a guy who's sort of had his moment playing a lot, understands the situation with Aiden Childs, and you've already seen some good talk from him.
Seems like a great guy, great player.
Yeah, Jonathan Smith's already said nice things about him and how he's performing. I think it was smart to get a veteran like him who's played a lot of games. I don't know what Michigan State needs to get their football roster. Maybe something big's happened over there because their football roster is not loading right now.
Last one from David. How does your app target advertising? When I started your show on your app on my Android phone, I heard an ad for Columbus, Ohio's Children's Museum. I'm thinking that gang in Owasso didn't get that ad. Is Big Brother truly watching me?
Oh, it's yeah. No,
why are you going to children's museums?
Well, that's that's another question. But
they are watching.
One of the things Jason does is, aside from this, one of his roles of the podcast is to track the whereabouts and demographics of listeners and make sure you get the right advertising on the app. So yes, we are all over you.
We don't edit the podcast after in post, but we actually do that. We send each individual.
It's a tiring.
I hear people that, because I listen to podcasts and people get really angry because I hear the commercials at the beginning of podcasts I listen to. I don't really get that infuriated because I know that podcast has nothing to do since we do a podcast. Right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have anything to do with what ads air before our show.
Right.
No,
we're
just trying to get a little bit.
We did get rid of early on. It was like pedophilia ads or something. It was something really bad. You remember we had to get them off?
Pedophilia? I didn't get those.
No, I'm not saying I can.
Boy, I guess Big Brother is really watching us.
I didn't mean it like that.
Unbelievable. I never get those.
You remember we had a problem with the early ads. We had to do something. We had to check. We had to get out of some sort of ad. There was something we had to do. We could opt out because it was inappropriate.
I don't know.
It wasn't
remember.
pedophilia. That's not great. That's not great. We'll fix that in post for real, maybe.
The other day when I didn't come in?
No, this was like a year ago. When we first started having the ads before the podcast, a couple years ago.
Was it election shit? I mean, no one likes that.
I don't know. Changing the subjects, Tommy Schuster is the name of the guy from Chippewa Valley, by the way. And I didn't know that. So he's a Michigan guy, played at North Dakota. 6-year quarterback. He'll be the backup this year for Michigan State.
Thank God we got that in. Aaron Leneke next. Who was the last player that, as Izzo says, loves it?
Well, loves it is even in his highest level. It's likes it, loves it, lives it. Lives it's the highest level. He thinks I know he's got a couple guys now. Jaden Akins is one of those, and Jackson Kohler is another guy who's in the gym working. But Akins is his big lives it guy right now.
What was AJ Hogard then last year? What was that?
Sort
if it works out, it works out guy?
That was him.
Oh. Scott going next. I think we all agree the way too early rankings that put MSU in the top 5 preseason were totally wrong. Question is, why did we all buy in? We should have known better. Izzo's best teams have always included a stretch 4 who can hit the trailing 3 and we can run plays for. That guy was never on this roster. How much did you push back on that when those rankings came out?
Not at all, because in hindsight you can definitely say that. And Malik Hall was never going to be the shooter Joey Hauser was, because he's not a shooter. He's a guy who can hit threes, but he's not a shooter. There's a big difference. I thought that they were going to be really good. I didn't see it. I didn't see the issue. I thought, because I watched the way they finished last season, even without Hauser, I thought that is a roster that's going to be motivated to and the way college basketball usually works. You get old, and if you got really good players, I don't know. It just didn't happen because they didn't have a 5. But I didn't see it. There's no question.
Company man next. Is it improper to think the discourse around the portal is getting weird? Fans seem to want the lukewarm body they can snatch regardless of the roster fit.
Well, my least favorite thing about the portal is just the meat market it creates. I mean, I do like that it's stopped the obsession with high school recruiting because, frankly, for the most part, who gives a rat's ass, right? The guy's going to leave anyway. Yeah. So not only might you not get them, but if you do get them, they might not sign. And if they do sign, they might come for a year and then leave. Like, that's a lot of effort to put into somebody who's not actually going to provide you any joy. The portal, though, has become this new meat market that is just, it's an obsession, and it has nothing to do. I mean, there are guys who would be good fits, and you see that once in a while, but it's like, holy crap, somebody's available. Let's add this average player to the roster. It's not all these guys upgrade your roster. Not all these guys, like the question of your Michigan State. The point is, if you're trying to win a national title with anybody you're going to bring in, the question can't be, does this person slightly upgrade the roster? Is this person's, because you have to think about the ceiling of your own players versus that person's ceiling. It's, does bringing this person in push you toward contention? And if the answer is no, then you don't bring that person in. And, even if your fan base is whacking off at the computer looking at looking at pictures of them. God, this got dirty. I'm sorry. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates. Yeah. Speaking of, anyway, this is a really good time to remind people, by the way, that Pure Options, starting today, has a cool deal where if the Tigers score 7 or more runs, you get a free ProGrow 8th with a purchase of $40 or more the next day. So the Tigers' offense has been a little dormant, but they're home. They're playing the Oakland A's. They score 7 or more runs this weekend. The next day, you can go to any Pure Options location and get a free 8th of ProGrow with a purchase of $40 or more if you use the promo code Tigers. If you spend $50 or more, don't use that promo. Let them know that Couch of the Rube sent you, and you get the same deal, the same free 8th of ProGrow, and they'll know we sent you. Let them know we sent you either way. But that is available. So if you're watching the Tigers, like, holy shit, that's 7 runs. Now I can get stoned this weekend. Pure Options is here for you. Go to pureoptions.com. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not stoned already, if you haven't already been to Pure Options, I am sorry.
Company man, Spin Zone. Does the upheaval of college sports offer the perfect opportunity to mimic Euro soccer's sublime use of relegation?
I've seen this idea of a super league and what that would mean, and the idea that some bottom of the mid-majors would have a chance to win their way in and lose their way out, but some teams would be protected. I don't love that anybody's actually protected. I think that's kind of ass, but they're never going to not protect the top brands. It does offer an opportunity for change. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because the people running the sport now are the TV networks, Fox, and then it's the Big Ten, Fox, ESPN, and then it's the Big Ten and SEC, and they don't want this. So until they want it, they control everything, and they are, with much offense meant. The Big Ten and SEC have appeared as greedy as can be with this, and I don't have a lot of trust in. I just don't right now.
Original Dark Mantonio next. From the beginning of my love of sports in the late 80s until today, I have hated MSU more than Ohio State, even in football. Does that make me the wrong kind of Michigan fan? I know. Why listen to a show like yours? Well, I like you guys.
We appreciate you. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Well, first of all, we do know there are other Michigan fans who hate listen to us. Like they listen because, especially when Michigan State.
I'm friends with one, yeah.
Yeah. When Michigan State loses and people are miserable with their hot takes and Twitter questions, our Michigan audience grows exponentially. There is no question about that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't blame them, and we appreciate. We'll take them. We want to. When the show began, I knew it would be a lot of MSU, but I don't think that was the intent to become like an MSU podcast. And we try to veer from being entirely that as much as possible, because I mean,
as you can tell by us talking about Madi Sissoko leaving for 45 minutes yesterday,
right?
But,
we really nailed that.
But we move on eventually.
Yeah.
Original Dark Mantonio, Twitter, YouTube, email, text if they have your number, Facebook. Are you sure you'll be able to keep up with all the questions and hot takes from that many platforms?
No, I'll probably screw it up, but I'm going to try. No, I just think that I just know a lot of people don't want to use X and are only on X to, and there are people who listen who that's just not their preferred.
And going to YouTube kind of helps us out too.
Yeah.
A little bit. So
right.
We appreciate it. We could do the email thing, but to be honest, we're trying to kind of boost the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think that's an area that we'd like to expand a little bit. We've got a great listener base with the podcast. Not that we don't want more all the time, but we're really happy with that. We'd like to. I don't know why anybody would want to watch our fat asses. To be honest,
I don't get it either. But people like it.
So. We wouldn't mind doing the YouTube stuff a little more. So yeah.
All right, Pigskin Scoop. I'm currently in second place in the bracket challenge. Could I at least get a coffee cup if I finish in second? # Go Purdue. Well,
I don't know.
Right up until that hashtag, yeah. No, we'll get you some.
We can make that work. I think. Therese, can you get the sweatshop going?
Yep, she's already got it rocking.
All right, sweet.
Pigskin Scoop. Are you concerned with the Lions' lack of free agent moves this offseason, or should we just trust Brad Holmes will continue to work his magic in the draft? I think the latter, yes.
Yeah, I think at this point it's weird, but you have to trust the GM at this point. They just went to an NFC Championship game, and with a hair of the Super Bowl, they're just doing things they have never done. So it's a weird place to be, but you trust, right?
And there was opportunities last year to bolster the defensive line a little bit, and they want their guys. They want the guys that are mentally checked in, and sometimes those guys aren't going to be who you think are the big free agents. So, like I said, I just think we sit back and let Brad Holmes do what he does.
And he's drafted pretty well, even outside of the first round. Really well.
Fuck.
Yeah.
He drafted a tight end, Sam Laporta, that's breaking records.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, and like St. Brown is, a fourth-round pick who's, one of the top 6 or 7 receivers in football right now. Like he is. Yep. I mean, he's done a really good job at identifying guys. Speaking of the NFL draft and the Lions, Pure Options has a really cool thing. Just to put this on your horizon, April 25th from 12 to 6 p.m. at their Detroit store. If you're going down to the NFL draft in Detroit, they're going to have live music, DJs, 420-style deals, similar to what they're going to have on 420 in East Lansing. It's April 25th, 12 to 6 p.m., $20 pre-rolls, all sorts of 20 pre-rolls for $42, $20 pre-rolls. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
There are $20 pre-rolls, and they're very, very nice.
Yeah. So really great deals, and we'll get into more of those when we get close to the draft. But on your horizon, if you're thinking about going down to the draft, the Detroit store of Pure Options is here for you. Cool things going on that day. You can make that part of your whole experience, or if you're just in that area, good day to make that part of your experience. Go to pureoptions.com for location information nearest you.
All right, Jason, up next. Any idea why it's numerous players heading into the portal from the women's basketball team? Dee Hagerman, Gabby Elliott, Bree Robinson, and Lauren Ross.
Yeah, I mean, are all those were not recruited by Robin Freilich, I think. And so some it's playing time, I'm sure, and you just don't see the path. Dee Hagerman's a little weird because she's the starting point guard. Like, she's got 1 year left, and she's had a lot of, I don't know, it just seems like she's in a good place. She's running a really fun offense, but I can also see in women's basketball, if you're a Dee Hageman, there might be some more NIL opportunities. There also might be a really big program that you think might need a point guard next year and might be interested in you. So maybe you're feeling out what's there. I can see from her perspective, but I think I still would be a little surprised if they don't get her back.
Good guy Rick next. Which MSU Spartan football player has the best chance to be drafted, and which player has the best chance to make an NFL roster? My answers may surprise. Hot takes episode incoming, and I will ask this question again before and during the NFL preseason.
Well, Nick Samak is the one who's most likely to be drafted, I think, and he's the one who would be on the verge. Now, the fact that he's a fringe draft pick, and this could be twice in a couple years that Michigan State hasn't had a player drafted after going 80 straight with a draft pick, speaks to just where the talent has fallen a little bit. In terms of like most likely to make an NFL roster, I don't know. Is Jacoby Winmon that guy? That's a good question. I would have to think that through. I'd be curious what your actual answer was and who that might be. And sometimes, was it Amir Speed, who I didn't think was very good at Michigan State, had a cup of coffee there for a minute, and so sometimes you don't see what the NFL does.
MW next. It seems like MSU upgraded the football staff tremendously, just based on the early interviews and coaching resumes. Some serious talent in East Lansing again. Different vibes from the last era for sure. Coach D-like in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, you feel that. It does feel. I don't know.
But Tucker's kind of felt that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
there was a lot of competence with Tucker for a while, and it was
like there was
different.
some momentum happening and all that.
Now Tucker came in at a different era, pre-NIL, and the way he was built to recruit, like it's just different. You don't need Mel Tucker. You don't need the Lamborghinis on the field anymore. Like
Tucker was really good at the social media aspect of it.
There were a lot of things where I think he brought MSU up to speed into the 26th century, whatever this is. And so I don't think Mel Tucker's entire tenure was a failure. The way it ended was obviously a thud, and it wasn't going all that well in terms of the trajectory last year. But I still think there's some good talent on the team, especially on the defensive side, that was brought in by that regime, and we'll see if that plays out.
When do you think Tucker comes back to coaching, though? Like, how many years?
It's at least a year.
Yeah?
2.
Man. All right, Russell B., given everything going on with MSU's basketball and football programs, what do you think is more likely to occur next season? Number 1, football team gets 8 wins, or 2, Izzo makes it to the Sweet 16.
Izzo makes it to the Sweet 16 is more likely than 8 wins.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough football schedule, and it's not that it can't get there, but Michigan State basketball, I think, has a better chance to be that kind of team. It's also easier to get to the Sweet 16, even if you're like a 7 seed. But I think it just, based on where the programs are, Izzo making to the Sweet 16 is much more likely than the football team getting 8 wins.
Shep next. Regarding Izzo having to fill a spot on his staff, excuse me, can we chop down his coaching tree? Run it through a wood chipper, burn it to ashes, and then pour the ashes in Lake Lansing.
Whoa.
To save himself, of course. New blood, please.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to entirely happen. Yeah, his tree is not the most successful thing in the world, but
is that a bad thing for a head coach, though? I mean, does that tarnish your legacy whatsoever? I mean, I know he's a Hall of Famer, but just as other coaches, if they had coaching staffs that really fizzled out places.
There are a lot of trees. I used to say the reason that his tree didn't work great was that you have you can't beat Izzo. Being Izzo, if that's not who you are, doesn't work. You can't be this sort of tyrant's too strong a word, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, if you're Mark Montgomery at Northern Illinois and you're just really railing into a kid, he's like, dude, I'm in DeKalb, Illinois, and I'm fucking going to transfer at the end of this year anyway. What are you yelling at me for?
So UFD should be different for Montgomery, I'm guessing.
Well, Montgomery, the thing about him is, and Izzo said this when he hired him back, that he was a different coach than when he lost him. Like, I think Montgomery is a pretty good coach, and I think he understands who he is. And if it's ever going to work for him, it's now. Now, the other dynamic is, I don't know how you build a mid-major roster right now. I think it's so different given the everything. I mean, I think it would be such a headache to try to do.
Izzo's no longer got to go up next. What would Izzo define as success for next year? What would Izzo define as success for the years he has left? That's where we should place our expectations.
I think contention is where he should define success, and I think he would too. Like, it should be a team that is in contention. Now, you can have, because that's all you can do is keep putting yourself in contention year after year. I mean, that's what he did for a decade so well, really from 2009 on. I mean, they were in contention at least every other year. And that's a really good place to be. A lot of those years, obviously, something went wrong. Something fizzled out. There's a lot of luck it takes to win a title. When they won a title, they got a lot of good luck. They played Iowa State at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I don't think they win that game a lot of other places. Kenyon Martin got hurt from Cincinnati, but the year before they may have been just as good. They ran into a Duke team they couldn't quite beat, and I think they would have probably beaten that UConn team in the final. They've had a lot of bad luck throughout the. So you just got to get yourself to contention, and then from there you try to, have a team that gets better and makes a run, because Izzo is good at getting teams that play their best in late February and March. We all know that. The problem lately is the team has been playing at a low enough point that even when they get better and they get themselves interesting, they're not in contention. You need to be good enough that when you take that leap, when you play your best basketball late, that is what all of a sudden makes you really, really intriguing.
Chris Eastlick next. Is Graham allowed to complain about any officiating at any point during the Final Four and national championship, since he wanted the team with the most favorable whistle I've ever seen to have their Hallmark movie ending?
Well, I mean, Purdue gets a favorable whistle. I think it's also hard to officiate Zach Edey. I can't believe how alone I am on this. I mean,
yeah, but you can't touch him.
If Zach Edey was a Michigan State center, everybody would agree with how
You'd forget
Purdue,
how to play basketball.
Well, that first. But secondly, Michigan State fans would think that he was officiated correctly, 100%. Like,
yeah, but I don't believe that. I mean, yes, they would say that, but I mean, they would go like, yeah, I don't know about these refs, but kind of let Edey play. But hey, we'll take it. I think that's how State fans would say it.
Let's take a really quick break. We come back. We'll wrap up your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Cannabis, and also our friends at Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. And here's the best part. Mention Couch in the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a free GoPro 8 with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com. where Couch and the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. If you're looking for a relaxed vibe, great food, and an outstanding beer selection, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing is your place. Enjoy their famed chicken and waffle fries, fish and chips, or any of their delicious burgers or salads. Midtown Brewing Company also offers 40-plus beers on tap, including ciders and seasonal offerings and daily happy hour specials. The spacious and cozy vibe makes Midtown Brewing Company a perfect place for a beer with a friend, a work lunch, or to watch the games on its big screen TVs. If you'd rather eat at home, Midtown Brewing Company offers a terrific carryout menu and free delivery on orders of $20 or more. Visit MidtownBrewingCompany.net or stop by 402 South Washington in downtown Lansing for the Midtown Brewing Company experience.
Find Couch and the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch and the Rube, presented by Pure Options Cannabis, and our Friday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers Casino and Sportsbook app. Download the app, bet the games this weekend, have some fun, and obviously do it responsibly. Let's dig back into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
All right, next one from Chris Eastlick. Graham, you said last weekend you wanted more reviews because of the non-foul that went against Purdue. I'll make you a deal, Graham. Purdue can have unlimited replays, but I get to stop the game and review any Edey potential travel, 3-second violation, or offensive shoulder drop that I want. Do you make that deal?
I do make that deal. I make that deal, and I'll throw in a box of Groovy Donuts. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a good, yeah.
That'd be a long game.
It would be a long game.
Next one from Chris. Friday take. Graham, I'll keep an eye on the forecast for any outdoor press boxes this year. I'll make sure you know when to pack your Purdue sweatshirt. Just kidding, buddy. You're still my favorite columnist. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. And a Thursday night in May, it's really Thursdays, Chris, that I need good weather. Thursday night softball. That's really all I ask. If I can get Thursdays for like 12 weeks, then me and Mother Nature are on good terms. If you can help me out in any way, I appreciate it.
Jarrett next. How should your idea of NIL go moving forward? Should each player's salary be easily looked up and each team's salary publicly known?
No, because it's just still private deals. You can't. I mean, well, if the money is actually coming from the schools, then it will be publicly known because that'll be FOIA-able. That's public money for public universities at least. But if it's still coming from a third party, it's never going to be. I mean, I think it's frustrating for people. But
so shouldn't third parties go then, or there should be some? I just feel transparency would solve a lot of problems.
Well, here's the thing: if it's an actual endorsement, it's nobody's business, right? Like an endorsement is, like I don't know what we always use the State Farm. I don't know what Caitlin Clark makes from State Farm, nor should I. That's not my
$1 million.
I think more than that, but I'm not supposed to know that. It doesn't matter. But if it's pay for play from a public university, and you're using a bullshit workaround, then it's actually should be public knowledge, and so that's what they probably have to at some point come to terms with.
Green Daddy next. Does STTP sound like a disease that is transmitted through peeing in a trough? I think it does.
So if you missed this the other day, I no longer will refer to bullshit pay-for-play NIL as NIL. NIL is endorsement money. That's fine. That's totally separate. And I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with a salary through a third party. That's what that stands for, STTP. But that's what I'm going to call it, STTP. And it does sound like a disease that came through peeing in a trough. Nonetheless, this is the acronym we're going with, and that is that's what is. Yeah.
Oh, you got the stip. Travis Maynard, if our fans can't be motivated by just being a decent human being, can they pretend everything said is something a potential recruit is seeing and ask themselves this: would I want to play for that fan base?
Yeah, I do think when you tweet something, just thinking like, remind if my own mother saw this and the person who I'm tweeting about's mother saw this, would I be truly embarrassed?
No, people won't care at that.
No?
No. Would it ruin your life if your favorite team didn't get a person because of what you said? You
Well,
know?
maybe
think
that's
of that. Think of the players seeing what you're saying and going, "Fuck this place, I'm out of here."
That's the
over two mothers. I mean, yeah, no one cares about that.
nobody cares about the yeah. Have you tweeted something at any point like where you really regretted it? Like anything you've really thought, boy, that was over the line?
No, not since I quit drinking almost 5 years ago.
Before you quit drinking.
Oh, easily where I was reaching out to people in my phone that were celebrities and telling them how much I appreciated them.
Oh, I remember that. That was when we were doing the show.
Yes. And it was supposed to be just a funny bit. I did it with Blaha.
Yeah.
And then I did, yeah.
How many got back to you?
Izzo did.
Yeah.
Blaha right. Just, who the fuck is this? And then, which is fair. It's fair. I don't remember who else did. But yeah, I didn't do many. But, those would have, yeah. I think, because I tweeted the conversation with Izzo, I think, something like that. But I wasn't really, it's still up there. I haven't deleted it. I can't really say that I've been that embarrassed by, especially recently.
Those are stories worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. A great place for brunch this weekend or a date night. If you're looking for a good date night, place you can also catch the game, be it the Tigers or the NCAA tournament action. Go to Midtown Brewing Company. Go to midtownbrewing.net to check out their outstanding menu and drink selection. My favorite beer there, the American Stout. And might have a date soon with Matt Macarini at Midtown. That's a little 69 action.
Turn the lights down.
Yeah. And also, we appreciate Midtown for sponsoring our 2024 Bracket Challenge. The winners of the Bracket Challenge, the top 3 places will get prize packs, including gift cards to Midtown Brewing Company. But the winners of both will also get up to $100 in free food for them and 6 of their friends, a night out at Midtown Brewing Company.
I still believe that, by the way. I still think that we should tell the people that are on this earth that how much of a legend they are, though. Some people, right? While they're on this earth, because I feel like some people die, and then all these, like Bob Sag or, like one of these celebrities, it's like all of a sudden everybody and their brother likes them now.
Yeah.
Like, we'll tell them when they're alive. Varsity softball dad. Is it time for July topics now that basketball season is finished?
A good July topic is really timeless. It's year round. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
define good.
Well, that's what I mean. Is Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame? That's not good.
It's been going on for a long time.
But a really good question about life predicaments or love
that
brings out a good story.
Related.
Right. But those we'll take those. We enjoy those in September. So yes, yes would be my answer.
Varsity softball dad. How are you enjoying Chicago PD this season? How much
July topic?
How much CPD fan fiction have you written? Is that a thing?
I guess so.
Is it me, or does Kim look like she found her way to the squat rack during the off season?
I hadn't thought about that, but I will tonight. My wife and I have a date to watch Chicago PD, among other things, this evening. So
really?
Well, we can't watch it live because it's on at 10 p.m. My wife's long since asleep, and
live,
and plus, the commercials and all that.
Thing to say.
And so we usually watch it on Friday nights together. Not to sound
she
like
goes to bed on Friday nights.
No,
earlier.
No, on during the week she goes to bed early. She takes a nap on Friday so we can hang out late after work. I don't know if she wants all this.
Isn't she like 30?
Yeah, she's older than 30. Yeah, no,
Jesus.
Gosh, now I'm saying my wife's older than 30, and I'm giving and I'm giving her away her routine. This is the worst.
Listen, I said my wife wasn't my best friend yesterday, and boy, did I hear that when I got back.
Did you? What'd she say?
Listen, I hate the enthusiasm in your voice asking me. No, it wasn't. She's just joking around, busting balls. We've talked about that before, but it was just funny. I got home like, not your best friend, huh?
By the way, when you make a mistake like this, the best answer is, if not a date night at Midtown Brewing Company, a box of Groovy Donuts. I'm telling you right now, like if my wife were to hear this, and thank God she won't, I would fix it by immediately going to Groovy Donuts, picking out a half dozen that she could cut up and have a nibble of each, and then I would eat the rest. It's a great way to enjoy Groovy Donuts. You can enjoy it in a more common way, too. You can do it however you want. Go to groovydonuts.com, place your order today. Swing by either location, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, or in Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Thursday through Sunday. I'm telling you, you will taste the difference. It is just, we've all had a gas station donut. We've all had I've had plenty, Quality Dairy donut. I mean, they're fine. It's a donut. This is a donut. It's a different kind of donut, and it's worth the trip.
Steve Beckman next. If you had unlimited money and were starting your own soccer club, where would you build your home stadium, and what would you name the club?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would rescue Torquay United, which may go under, may go part-time. It's really sad. My dad's former club in Torquay, which is just it sucks because they were the same level as Wrexham, for those people who remember that documentary Trying to Get Up. Well, Wrexham got up, and they got relegated last year, even out of that, and now they've got all sorts of financial problems, and the owners have bailed, and it's shit. So I would start there. Then I would if I got unlimited money, I would basically give all the USL clubs in the country the same amount of unlimited money as I had, and we would freaking take down MLS. We would bring MLS to its knees until it stopped being the shit fuck that it is. And there are lots of things I appreciate MLS about, but the way they're just this one single entity thing, the way they're a bully, and it's not even that good at soccer. And the final thing I would do before we brought MLS on with us, once they apologize and agree to do things with promotion and relegation, is they would have to admit that Liga MX was better than them right now and stop acting like they're an equal.
It sounds like you and Beckman had this conversation.
We did not
already, and now you're just bringing it to the air. It's like soccer fan fiction.
Where I appreciate Steve Beckman is if he hadn't asked this question, my wife would have heard this rant tonight, and that would have just bored the shit out of her. So instead, all our listeners got to hear it.
Mr. Neurotic Pants next. Can Jason share the full story of his drunken misbehavior at the wedding and how Treese helped him make piss? Is that you editing? Make piss?
That's just what he said. I didn't edit it. It was sorry.
My penis was already out, so she pointed it in the direction of the urinal. Other than that, I got shithoused. I think I offended Couch's wife forever, and then I think Graham and I talked basketball for about 2 hours to me, and then people had enough. And then I think I went to the line for food, and I went through and slapped a couple pieces of ham on my plate. It was just a debacle. And then I went back, and everybody's gone from the table, pretty much. Rightfully so.
That is
pretty much it. I mean, I don't know. Am I missing anything?
No, that's about it. That is actually a story we're telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company. That is a...
Well, it gets better. Sorry, I'm forgetting one thing, because this was I think like the second time Treese and I it wasn't technically a date, right? I don't know. But she had to show up later than because I had to be there earlier, whatever. So she shows up. I am shithouse hammered, but she looks so beautiful. It was one of those moments, right? The movie moments where your future wife walks in, you're like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. But it comes out, oh, it's beautiful. Here's my penis. You know, it's just like, so I ruined that moment, but I still remember it to this day how beautiful she was.
I want that as a live drop.
I can make that happen.
Yeah, that is.
You should have one to hit over there for me.
Yeah, right. They put new buttons over here for me, like a way I can talk to Jason when we're off air. And the old thing I must have broken or something went wrong. And this one's like a Fisher-Price toy. It just says talk with this giant button. I just hit it.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really
newfangled technology.
It's really easy. That is a story, of course, we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company. Great place for any occasion, as we just mentioned.
Neurotic Pants Graham, do you prefer college or minor league baseball? As a quick follow-up, what, if anything, should you take from the Lugnuts meat grinding the Spartans?
Yeah, I mean, minor league baseball probably just because you can more places sell beer, and I enjoy that atmosphere. But I like college baseball too. I don't have no issues with it. I wouldn't take anything from the 18-0 win by the Lugnuts over the Spartans because
let's break it down.
They shouldn't even be playing this game in a lot of ways. Michigan State's in the middle of a Big Ten season, which means their starting pitching rotation for the weekend is not coming anywhere near the field on a Tuesday night. Or Wednesday night, whatever night it was, in downtown Lansing playing a minor league baseball team. So they just don't play there. It's just, they're not, you don't take anything from it. That's the problem with all the midweek games for college baseball teams.
Thomas Crater and Matt C. next. Any word on when A.J. Hoggard is going to announce a decision about his future? The longer it drags out, the more it seems like he will return.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is there a timetable for these guys?
No, it's like a 700-day window for the portal. So there's next Christmas I think they have to make a decision.
So as a fan, it feels like it's just taking forever.
Correct.
Right?
And if you're somebody like Hoggard, number one, you're still taking classes. Like if I were a player like him, first of all, schools are contacting you already. This isn't a you may be still trying to figure out what you want to do and where you want to go and whether you want to try to turn pro and you may have conversations with Michigan State. I do not think he'll be back, by the way. Izzo has made it clear he thinks that Jeremy Fears is ready to run the team. But there are probably lots of conversation that, I'm sure if he decides he wants to be in college basketball, though, that they would help him find a place. Yeah, I mean, they
Detroit Mercy.
Well, but they owe him. Yeah, he may. Yeah,
go run that shit.
Who knows? Montgomery's going to be introduced next Tuesday. He's just getting there, right? You may want to see where other things are going to land in terms of coaching hires and yeah. I mean, everybody's impatient, but I would not be. If I were still in school, I'd want to use their facilities. I'd want to be part of things there. I'm not. If I were AJ Hoggard, it'd be a couple weeks at least before I made a decision.
Matt C. Next, did Jackson Kohler look you in the eyes, Graham, and say, "I choose you"? I don't get why you would like an undersized 5 with a 3-inch vertical who can't finish, defend, or rebound. Sorry, Jeff Kohler. Sorry.
He did look me in the eyes and say, "Graham, I choose you." It was a great moment. But I really enjoy Jackson Kohler's game. I like that style. They call him Baby Jokic for a reason. I enjoy, if you watch his high school highlights, I enjoy big men who know how to play the game, and I just careful with what I said there. Jeez. Anyway, so I enjoy his game. I hope it works out for him.
Matt C. Hey, Graham. Here's a question for Izzo. How does Doug Wojcik give us distinct competitive advantage on game day? What would Izzo's reaction be to a question like this?
Well, he would explain it. As long as you don't, I can sense your tone. Like, "Hey, Izzo, how the fuck does Doug actually give a, no, it's
my team."
If you said, "Hey, could you go through your assistants and what they do on game day and how they help and where they're most valuable to the program?" I think that's a fair question. Actually, a question that probably should be asked.
Ben Jen, I watched Brandon Dawson. He is not a top 40 player at MSU. I understand it's only time at MSU, but he left so much on the table. Give me Goran Sutan for his senior tourney run, Alan Anderson, Peplowski, and the original three-point artist, Kirk Mans. Holy shit, Kirk Mans. On bad teams over that stiff. How wrong am I?
You're wrong. And Kirk Mans and Peplowski, Alan Anderson's in the top 50. Peplowski and Kirk Mans, I believe, were originally in it. Kirk Mans does not play any defense, did not play a lick of defense. I mean, none whatsoever. Great shooter, did not know there was the other end of the court, and was not capable of it. So, to that said, I would go back and urge you to, just look at the top 50. Click on why. And in fact, hold on. Give me some Hoff.
Off.
We're dropping MFers now?
I am a passenger.
Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody
I
masturbates.
stay under glass. I look through my window so bright.
All right, so I have Brandon Dawson, 36, behind Jason Richardson, ahead of Stan Washington and Antonio Smith. That's where he's fallen to. He was a little higher before Cassius Winston and some others came up. So, and this is the write-up I had on him. Dawson led the Big Ten in rebounding as a senior. 9.1 per game, a full rebound ahead of second place Frank Kaminsky. His 902 career rebounds are 7th at MSU, as are his 318 this season. He leaves with 1,309 points, 25th all-time, averaging 11.9 as a senior while earning second-team All-Big Ten honors. This was back when he was 30th. I have Dawson at 30th now, The reason he's so revered is a second straight unforgettable postseason. When March rolled around the last 2 years, Dawson did a lot of the lifting for the Spartans. In MSU's 15 postseason games during his junior and senior seasons, 6 in the Big Ten tournament, 9 in the NCAA tournament, so many happening in large part because of Dawson. He averaged 14.2 points with 2 memorably dominating efforts against Virginia. His combined 39 points, 19 rebounds, and 4 block shots allowed MSU to twice oust the higher-seeded Cavaliers. And so, there's a lot of stuff, in terms of impact and what he did and win, and there's some more in the story. You can read it. But Dawson was a hell of a player, and a hell of a player in some big moments late in his career.
Mr. Benjen, would you put together a top 10 or 20 list of best college basketball players from all schools per decade for the LSJ?
No.
I'd love to know where you have MSU's best ranked overall. Maybe start with the teens since you were a voter then.
No, this is a lot of work. These things take a lot. We just put together a top 10, myself, Brian Calloway, and Barry Keogh from the LSJ, and it's coming out Friday night. Top 10 MSU women's basketball players of all time. And that wasn't all that difficult when you just stick it to 10. But still a lot. And MSU women's basketball has only been around since the early 70s. But it was, there's a lot. You want to get it right, and it takes a lot of time to go through resumes and sort of figure out what people remember about players and who they were and how impactful they were on winning and all this stuff. It's a lot of work to go through it. To go through other schools that I haven't seen and don't know as well would be impossible.
Mojo Jojo, Graham, can you ask Brad Underwood how often he gets lookalike comparisons to Brendan Gleeson in Gangs of New York?
The picture.
Is that Jake Hawkins or Mojo Jojo?
This is Mojo Jojo.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty. I would. There's a pretty good doppelganger thing going on for sure.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy, one question. One? This is bullshit. How can I just ask one?
You don't have to ask one. I say have one when I ask the questions. If you have a question, have one. Reply here. But I always say that. I don't know why you thought this was just one this time.
Jerk Guy, will Izzo get a second national championship or will he die trying?
He's more likely to die trying. It's hard to do, right? It's not that. I mean, just think about all the times he might have won one and didn't. And so the likelihood is maybe he'll get back to having one of those teams again, or maybe he'll have two more of those teams. But the odds are always against you that you'll actually win the title.
Was this question meant to be taken seriously? I don't think you.
Yeah, right.
Oh, is he? Oh,
yeah.
I forget. It used to be funny. Upper Deck Jerk Guy. I'm just kidding. Have you ever star-you-baited?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah. I did that yesterday.
I'm sure you did. Hold on. Let me.
Is that where you beat your bag while you're eating yellow Starburst?
It is not. To become sexually aroused by one or more video games, sports, etc.
Well, I did that yesterday, too.
Yeah. Well, this is the closest thing I've Googled to porn, so I'm glad I did that. We appreciate all of you for producing our show, as always. We do really appreciate you. We'll have the hot takes this coming Monday. You can either respond on Twitter, you can reply in the comments on YouTube, or email me at graham.couch@gmail.com. We appreciate Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com for location information and specials. And just swing on by anytime. Let them know Couch in the Room sent you. $50 or more gets you a free 8th of ProGrow. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. Stop by either location, Williamson and Lake Lansing Road, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Thursday through Sunday. We appreciate Firekeeper's Eye Casino and Sportsbook, Midtown Brewing Company. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.